Welcome to this week's edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Kevin Jeter hanging out with Afshin Bernard, Vincent Charles, Chris Jerry, and a very special guest, Shelly Bowers. Gentlemen, let's get started talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports in the DMV and beyond. I got one word: Redskins took it on the chin today, but we're not going to talk about that because they're 3-12. There are other things that ail the Washington Redskins, and so let's address those things. Let's start with management. Dan Snyder and, of course, Mike Shanahan. Whatever happened between them permeated and worked itself into the locker room, which makes for a bad demon. Afshin.
Oh, absolutely. And you saw it this whole season. And it started really from the beginning when Robert Griffin III didn't practice, wasn't part of the preseason at all, and he took the field against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night in the season opener. That's when it all really started. And then the friction started, and we saw the dissension among the players, among management and coach, among coach and quarterback.
Shelly.
There are many facets of the Redskins game that need some fixing. And this past week's game against the Cowboys, number one, the special teams was horrible. Secondly, Tony Chokmo was getting all the time. I could have stepped in there, quarterbacked, and completed a pass or two. He was getting all the time in the world. So there's a lot of things that the Redskins need to work on during the offseason.
That's right. Funny that you mentioned that game, Shelly. I was actually in the car listening to that game, and I was like, whoa, the Redskins are finally leading. But as Shelly mentioned, they're not one to keep a lead. Vincent.
I agree with Afshin. Changes at the top could be needed. Any other coach by now would have been fired. Mike Shanahan is lucky he's still around. There are a lot of things wrong, especially in the offensive and defensive lines, and I think those two areas need to be addressed first.
Chris.
Well, in terms of being addressed, Vincent, you mentioned about fired. I'm not so sure. There's rumors that maybe Shanahan will be back. It's very possible that he will come back for his last year of his contract. They've not given him an extension. I'd kind of like to see this picture go a little bit further. Not just because I'm not a Redskin fan, but I'd like to see Shanahan come back and see if they can do something next year because with Griffin, sitting out the rest of the season and coming back, perhaps they can find the magic that they had in 2012.
Funny you should mention that, Chris. And if I can read your mind, Afshin, you're going to talk about that salary cap debacle or something to the effect. Well, now the Redskins will not be under that shell. And I kind of agree with Chris. I want to see this through. I mean, for better or for worse.
It is like a soap opera, and I think it starts at the top, Vincent. And when I said at the top, I wasn't referring to Mike Shanahan. I agree with Chris. I think he will be back. I think Dan Snyder should sell the team. I think he's had a horrible run as owner. He's the Jerry Jones of the North, basically. He's a younger Jerry Jones. I think he should get rid of this whole team and give it to somebody else who's actually going to be more concerned with playing football or having football people run football operations on the team and let him be the businessman. And Snyder doesn't want to do that. The salary cap is a debacle, and it was $18 million this year, yes. $18 million the year before. And I think that plays into it a little bit. But Dan Snyder, trash at the top, trash all the way through, in my opinion.
You mentioned, now, Jerry Jones, although you making that comparison to Daniel Snyder, you got to keep in mind that Jerry does have some Super Bowl championships. And granted, it's been in a while, it's in the past, but nonetheless, though, as a Redskin fan, it hurts me to say this, but if there's one thing about the Cowboys that I am jealous about, and that is the fact is they do have an owner who has at least some sort of inkling about how to run a football program. Now, granted, Jerry himself as owner is past his prime, as you're referring to, Afshin, but nonetheless, though, he does have a little bit more of an inkling of how to run a football organization than Daniel Snyder does.
He does, Shelly. I agree with you. Back in the 90s, he did. But who ran that team when Jerry Jones became the owner of that team? It was Jimmy Johnson.
Right.
Once Jimmy Johnson left, Jerry Jones took over. That's the difference. That's where I make the comparison with Jerry Jones and Dan Snyder. And that's why I think Dan Snyder, really, if he does care about this team, he should sell it.
Well, at the end of the day, I think we all sit here as sports fans and we like what's going on with wins and losses. But the bottom line is football's a business. Mm-hmm. As long as that team can print money.
Absolutely.
Well, I think they're the third most valuable franchise in U.S. sports.
Yeah.
Unless somebody's going to give them like $1.5 billion or so, I don't see that team getting sold.
All right. Yeah. Hold your thought there for a minute, Vincent. Want to remind everyone that if you're just tuning in, you're watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show on AIM via Comcast 69 and Fios 38. Vincent?
When you're referring to running the team, normally a general manager runs the team.
True.
Where is Bruce Allen? And I think as far as personnel decisions, if Mike Shanahan stays, he should be given less responsibility, and they need an active general manager.
That's my
Vincent
point.
brings up a very interesting point, and I think you were alluding to that. So where do we go from here? Do the Redskins get a real GM, so to speak?
Yes, you take a football man and let him run football operations for a football team.
Not a figure piece, right?
Not a figure piece. Bruce Allen. Look, I grew up with a lot of these people. Bruce Allen. I grew up with George Allen. I'm a product of the Touchdown Club of Washington, where they all were there when I was a kid. I grew up knowing these guys, Vincent. And when you had someone like the general manager, Charlie Casserly, and before him, you had all those guys that ran the team. They were football people who ran football operations. Bruce Allen's nothing but a figurehead. He's like the king. He's like the Queen of England.
All right, I want to get Chris because I saw a smile come across on Chris' face, and I'm interested to hear what you got to say, my man.
No, I just, I think that they do need somebody to run. Maybe they can bring Benny Serrato back.
The salary cap guru, Vinny Serrato.
But in all honesty, I do think they need a legit GM. I mean, one of the things about Bruce that he's good at, even this past year, in getting the situation settled where they could move to Richmond. He's a good guy off the field. He can talk Redskin, but I'm not sure that analyzing player abilities, player talent is his strong point.
Well, here's a thought. Why not have Bruce Allen remain in that capacity and get a real GM to do that? And actually, we're going to let Vincent have one last word on this. Be judicious, my son.
That's a good thought, Kevin. I think Snyder has enough money to go around. That what's another person on the payroll?
What's another couple 100,000 or a million or so? All right. So thanks, gentlemen, for engaging us in that conversation. All right, let's talk about those Washington Capitals flying high, doing pretty good. Afshin, quite a accomplishment for Alex Ovechkin, 400 goals. He's achieved that faster than any other NHL player. He ranks number 6 in that category.
I guarantee you he'd be number 1 in the NFL in that category. But
especially
yeah,
if he played for the Redskins.
Yeah, it's good for Alex Ovechkin, one of the premier players in the league. He doesn't get the credit because he hasn't gotten the cup yet, and that's one thing that he's going to always be known for if he doesn't. But he's a great player, and Washington is lucky to have him.
That's right. One thing about the Washington Capitals is that they are buying into Alan Oates' system, and that's a good thing about that. And one thing I have to mention also in regards to GM is that he's doing pretty good with first-year coaches. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I think George McPhee has done okay, but I'll take a little bit step back from where you were going with the Capitals because I would be a little bit concerned. It seemed like a few weeks ago they were 1 point behind Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. That now has opened up to a 14 or 15-point gap. And with the new playoff system, the Capitals have to be at least third in their division in order to make the playoffs, no worse than fifth. So I would have some concerns that if they go in a slump, they could very easily be out of the playoffs.
That's right. And that's something that you had mentioned and alluded to in our previous podcast as well. So that's a major concern for the Washington Capitals. Shelley.
Kevin, first thing I want to ask is, when are we going to stop being teased? I got ex-girlfriends that haven't teased me this much, man. Every year we are rocking the red now. Every year we've been doing this, and they do this little tease with us that, okay, this is going to be the year. They won the division, it seemed like a couple of years ago, and we're either the number 1 or number 2 seed, and we get the same old, bailout come postseason time.
I can't begin to answer that question. We've actually pondered that question right here.
Can we get Reggie Savage back in here or something?
On several occasions. If I had a crystal ball, of course, that would we would know the answer. But I guess even that wouldn't work. Vincent.
Once again, the standards are high, and the Washington fans, they don't want to be stood up again for the big dance. So they're off to a decent start. Ovechkin playing great, shootouts doing well in the power play, different lines, defensemen, aggressive. So a lot of positive things. So let's hope they can stay in the race.
Well, in their division, they have a lot of competition to adhere to, and that's what Chris was alluding to, and that's the important thing with this year's Capitals in the division that they're in. I mean, if they fall, a few games or 5 games behind, that could spell disaster for them, especially when you get later into the season. Afshin.
They're in the old, Patrick division, so they've got some foes in there. But yeah, Chris is right. I mean, the Capitals could go on a 4 or 5 game losing streak, and they just might be out of it at that point. That's one thing you don't want to happen right now is get out of that, go into a losing streak. But to allude to what Shelley was talking about, this is like historical. What the Capitals do is not just through the 90s and now. They started this thing back in the 80s when they started meeting the Islanders in the playoffs. For some reason, the Capitals are a great regular season hockey team, but when it comes to the playoffs, forget about it. 1, 2 rounds if you're lucky.
Yeah, that's always been the MO on them. They're good during the regular season, but come playoffs where things are, they count, they become a different team. And the style of play during the playoffs is way different. You coach differently for, the playoffs than you do regular season. Shelley.
But having said all that, I'm critical. I'm cautiously optimistic about this year. But having said that, one thing that's different this year than in recent years is that Ovechkin is lighting up the lamp now, which is what we expected from him when they first brought him here, and he's leading the league in goals now. So maybe, just maybe, this might be the thing that pushes us over the hump for the Capitals to hopefully bring home that Stanley Cup this year.
All right, Afshin.
Yeah, he's buying into Adam Oates' system, and the whole team is buying into the philosophy. I mean, Joe Ward's getting into the act. He's scored quite a few goals already this year, and the penalty kill, like Vincent was talking about, doing a great job right now on ice for the Capitals. So, it's early still.
That's right, early still, and we'll see how the Washington Capitals do. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Chris Jerry, Afshin Banob, Vincent Charles, and a very special guest, Shelley Bowers. You're watching the Nation's Capitals Sports Show, and you can also listen to the Nation's Capitals Sports Show on the award-winning Stitcher Radio Network at Stitcher.com. We'll be right back, and we're going to get to know a little bit more about Shelley Bowers, and also we're going to share our season wishes for our area sports teams in the DMV. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with my bosom buddies and Chris Jerry, Afshin Banob, Shelley Bowers, and of course, Vincent Charles. Gentlemen, let's continue to talk about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports here in the DMV and beyond. For those of you who have listened to our podcast throughout the years, you know that during this time of the year, we normally talk about our wishes, our season wishes that we wish for our favorite sport teams, DMV-wise or national-wise. Take your pick. And so I'm actually going to start mine off and say my wish for the Washington Nationals is that they get to postseason play next year, and for the Washington Wizards that they make it to the playoffs, and for DC United that they win more than 2 games or whatever the case may be. And of course, let's see here, for the Mystics to advance to the second level of the playoffs, although they did good for this year. And for the Washington Redskins, your guess is just as good as mine. But I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and I was interested to hear what Chris had in mind, so I'm going to start with Chris first.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder a little bit. I was going to go with the Nationals because I wanted to wish, and I do wish, that the Nationals, after the 2013 year, which was kind of a downer, that they bounce back and get in the playoffs. But since we were talking a little bit off camera there about my beloved University of Virginia Cavaliers, what I'm wishing for is a good basketball season and followed by a good football season next year in 2014. Because if that doesn't happen, then I want Craig Littlepage fired. I want Mike London fired. I want Tony Bennett fired. I want all them bums cleaned out if they don't improve on their season this year.
It harkens to that song, Do You Believe in Miracles? Vincent.
I would say my wish is for the Wizards to finally make it to the playoffs since it's been so long. They're starting out well. Beal and Nene playing together along with John Wall. They're looking good so far, so I'm hoping and wishing that the Wizards can make it to the playoffs.
Well, they're going to actually, let's expand on that just a little bit. If anything happens to their core players, they're actually going to be up the creek without a paddle, let's face it. And so I guess if we were one to expand on that wish, would be for them to basically last through the season without having any of their major pieces get injured. But I digress. Shelley.
Well, since I have on my DC United Santa cap, I'm going to wish for the black and red that all the red tape gets settled and that we can finally get some new digs to play some football in another year or two. So a new stadium for DC United hopefully will come to fruition instead of us talking about it every other year. Since I have on my U.S. national team jersey, I am going to wish for them that they make it at least to the Final Four of the upcoming World Cup in Brazil. That would be a nice gift. Since I have on my Washington Nationals kicks, I am going to wish for the Curly W's that I have an offer for the Nats. I want to volunteer my services to work as the sound guy for just one game so that I could play some old school go-go, some classic funk or something, because I'm a music person. I mean, I love going to the Nationals games. There's no bones about that. But I'm a music person too, and it's okay what they play on the PA system. But I would like to, get some
soul
some pumping,
to a
some pumping
DC
sounds
spirit.
up in the Nationals Park. You know what I'm saying? So, those are my wishes.
Thanks a lot, Shirley.
very good
They're
wishes.
very good wishes too. I like the style Shirley lifted up the shoes.
I
and
know,
got
I like
into
that,
it. I
man.
like
You got his
that,
foot
man.
You want to see
there.
my draws?
This is a family show.
I would just like to see one team in this city do well. Just one team. I don't care all the teams you guys mentioned. Just one team actually have a nice playoff run. And you actually stole my thunder, Shelley. I was hoping my wish was for the United States football team to actually just get out of group play. But you want them to go to the Final Four. I'd love that.
Yeah.
But just to get out of group play would be an enormous lift for them.
But
those are my two.
we've got out of group play. I'm hungry.
Yeah, I know.
We've once upon a time, just to make the World Cup,
We couldn't even
was,
do that.
Right, was the ultimate. But now that we've had a taste of it and we've shown that we can compete on an international level, I want a little bit more now.
Let me ask you this as a DC United fan. What ails DC United?
It's plain and simple, Kev. We can't put the ball in the back of the net. We just acquired Eddie Johnson during this offseason, and so hopefully that he'll be able to add some scoring punch to the DC United front line. But yeah, the bottom line is we are not putting the ball in the back of the net. And our defense has been a little porous too. So DC United has shored up their back line a little bit on the offseason with a couple of acquisitions there as well. So, but mainly we've got to put the ball in the back of the net.
Last question: is Ben Olsen the person for this job?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Without any hesitation, he is.
All right.
He's DC United. He's black and red, through and through. Used to play for the organization. I loved him as a player. Loved him just as much as a coach.
All right. These guys agree that Ben Olsen is the guy for the job too. Let's hope that all you guys' wishes come true. Thank you guys very much for that. Let's move on to talking a little bit about you, Shelley Bowers. Shelley Bowers, esteemed broadcaster. Whenever event that I show up to, there's Shelley Bowers at a high school game announcing it. When I turn on the radio, there's Shelley Bowers spinning music at WMMJ. There's Shelley Bowers doing something. Man, you're all over the place. And then recently, you forayed into a new career, so to speak, as a comedian. So,
Right.
What's going on with you, my man?
Well, I've been blessed with the pipes that that I have, and I'm just trying to take advantage of them as far as my announcing career goes. I've been PA public address announcing for over 20 years now. I started at Grambling when I was a student there. Worked for the legendary Coach Eddie Robinson, may he rest in peace, and. My biggest thrill was doing the 1987 Bayou Classic at the Louisiana Superdome in front of 70,000 plus fans, and it's a rush when you have people reacting to what you're saying in that microphone. Because I remember that particular year, we were down by 5, and there was about a minute left in the game, and one of our receivers caught the ball and was going in for what appeared to be the winning touchdown. And he was caught from behind, fumbled the ball, went out of the end zone for a touchback. And I knew what the ruling was on the field, but I was hesitant to make it. And then I paused and I said, touchback, Southern's ball, 1st and 10 on the 20. And everybody on the Southern side of this stadium erupted. And so that was a big thrill for me, even though it was, a rival, but, just to see people react like that many people react to something that you say. And so I've kind of parlayed that into a career. I've came back home and started working for Howard University doing PA announcing. You know, I spent most of my career in radio and TV, as you know, as you mentioned. So now I have clients all over the area, mainly Howard University and Georgetown University. You know, for Georgetown, I do everything just about except for men's basketball. I do women's basketball, men and women's soccer, men and women's lacrosse, field hockey, volleyball. I'm missing something, but you know, I do everything for them. Baseball.
Well, you even showed up for a class that Vincent and I took.
That's right.
And we won't mention the name of that school. I don't want to get into that. That's another issue, and you'll have me going on in a negative way. And folks, you don't want to see that. But you're all over the place, an enormous, talented broadcaster. I'm going to let the guys get in here and mess with you a little bit.
Well, I'm not going to mess with him. The thing about Shelly that, you know, seriously, that I enjoy is Shelly and I have been able to go to different games and sit with each other as fans. Mm-hmm. And so that's what, you know, I enjoy, because he knows the game, I know the game, so I like that, you know, you don't have to do any teaching or any of that kind of thing. One thing I wish, you know, going back to our wishes for the holiday, I really wish that one of the professional organizations in this town would take a look at this young man as a PA announcer. I think the Nationals could use him. I don't know much about who's doing the Redskin game, but the guy's a very talented person. He's local, and I'd like to see that, you know, here Shelly as a PA announcer for one of our teams.
Oh, he has a breath of knowledge and experience.
That's right.
You know, and
I left my wallet in the car. How much do I owe you?
No.
I've known him for over 20-some years,
Oh, yeah.
and he's always had his hands in everything. A capable broadcaster, if
That's
ever I
right,
saw
that's
and
right.
listened to one just like you guys.
Thank you.
I mean, take nothing away from that, Afshin.
Yeah, the Nationals, work on that. I'm not kidding.
Nationals.
Work on that. I think Mark Kessler does the Washington the Skins football team, but the Nationals could use somebody really good. You've got the voice for it, Shelly.
Yes,
you really do.
And the talent and the enthusiasm.
Appreciate it.
As far as for the young people out there watching the show, what type of advice would you give professionally for some of the young people that are getting into the business now?
I tell you, Vincent, the easiest way to get into the business is to knock on the doors of these local high schools. They're always looking for announcers for their basketball and football games. When I came back here, when I came back to town in the early 90s and I started working for Howard University, I went back to my alma mater, Wilson High School, and went to the athletic director and said, look, I'm doing PA announcing for Howard. You know, since I'm back in town, might as well do it. You know, I want to offer my services for my high school alma mater. You know, and he took me up on my offer, and you know, doing PA announcing for Wilson and Howard led to, you know, other opportunities. And like I said, I've picked up Georgetown. I've done PA announcing for American University. Done an event for University of Maryland. I've done a couple of events for Catholic University, Montgomery College. You know, various high school all-star games and championship events. You know, so. You know, my mindset is, you know, have Mike, we'll travel. You know, if there's a gig out there, you know, you want me to get on the mic and do my thing, you know, give me a holler.
And the good thing about radio today is that most high schools have, when we were coming up, we didn't have any studios or radio studios.
Right.
So we had to scrummage around the community that go at a WDCU, a public radio station.
Right.
Nowadays, they got, you know, full-fledged carrier current radio stations in some of these high schools. Multi-million-dollar equipment, so they have a unique advantage ahead of everyone else, especially on the internet.
Well, Kevin, you and I, we're you know, we went to Wilson, Afshin as well. You know, we're DC Public School alums. I could tell you McKinley Tech, Ballou, Duke Ellington, Woodrow Wilson. All of them have some sort of mass media component in their schools now, and you know, when I go to colleges and you know, do guest speaking to students, I tell them, you know, you have no excuses now. You know, the way technology has changed.
That's right. They got the internet.
Right.
You don't even
I've heard of that.
You don't even,
I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's
internet
right.
thing,
You don't even have to be a broadcaster. You can take it directly to the internet.
You can start
and that's
your
one
own
of the ways in which we started out here
Right.
doing the nation's capital sports show. So the advent of modern technology, you can take it to that level, and then you can parlay that into over success. And we've all been doing this show for 4.5 years, and we wanted to get somewhere. But you're absolutely right. Want to let you have the last word. Of course, you're our guest. You're invited on the show anytime that you want, Shelly, man. We didn't get a chance to hear any jokes. However, at the end of the show, perhaps we'll squeeze one in. We want to remind everyone that you're watching the nation's capital sports show right here at AIM on Comcast 69, FiOS38. Email us at info@tncss.net. Questions to Shelly and to our panel of esteemed guests in Vincent Charles, Afshin Banab, Shelly Bowers, and of course, Kevin Jeter. All right, let's continue our conversation. This is our closeout time of the year where we, if those of you don't listen to the podcast, we sit around and we wish everyone that we want to a happy holiday, Kwanzaa, Abatuwe Afiki, Nigerian for Merry Christmas, whatever you want. Let's go ahead and we'll start with you, Afshin.
Yeah, I wish everybody here on the set and here at Arlington Independent Media a very happy holiday. And all of you people watching at home, if you're snuggled up on your couch with a fire going, well, actually it's like 75 degrees, so there ain't no fire right now, right? But I just want to wish everybody in my family and everyone who's watching, and all of you guys especially,
Thank you.
a very happy holiday.
Chris.
Yeah, and I can't add more to that. Just the broad brushes and say just happy holidays to everyone. And stay safe. Whatever you do, stay safe. And let's make it to 2014.
All right. Shelly.
Same thing, my fam and my clients, those that I have a business relationship with, I wish you all happy holidays, very prosperous 2014.
All right, Vincent.
First of all, I'd like to wish all the people at AIM that do this wonderful show for us Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And all my friends and families and fellow viewers and listeners out there, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
All right, and last but not least, I guess it's my turn. You guys are the echelon of good buddies, friends I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And I want to wish everyone out there, in terms of our AIM family, the opportunity to do this show, to sit here and to talk to you guys about sports. There are a lot of behind-the-scenes things go on. Kevin Sampson, Devin Gallagher, oh man, Paul LaValle. The list goes on and on, man, when we sit here and do this show out of love. And I can't begin to envelope these guys that come here and give up their time and talk about what we really do and talk about. I enjoy the camaraderie. I enjoy you guys. You are my family. I've known each of you for 20 years each. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to always come here. Getting a little choked up. But you guys mean the most for me. And we hope everyone to have a happy holiday, a safe holiday. And for 2014, I can sit here and tell you that this has been an interesting year for me personally, but I got to tell you that good things happen when you least expect it. And let's keep that in perspective as we continue throughout this year. For the entire Nation's Capital Sports Show crew and staff here at AIM, I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, Chris Jerry, and Shelly Bowers. Have a safe and pleasant new year, and we'll catch you on the flip side of 2014. Take care.